How do you create the feeling, the reality, where an investor feels like they're already 80% of the way there with you before they even met you? How do you build that trust with people from scratch is the question. So to find new money, you need new attention. So how do you get it? There's two ways to create attention. Platforms you own. Here's exactly what we've done over the last 24 months, like literally to a T. Live events. We've done two types of live events. One is called Boots on the Ground. Boots on the Ground is an event where we literally have our clients, our members, our clients, or potential investors come out and see our properties. Now, we managed to have between 50 and 70 people, 75 people fly out to Houston, Texas on multiple occasions. I'm not asking you guys to fly people all over the world, but if you got a deal in London, Ontario, can people spare a few hours to come out and take a look? Yeah, they can. You just have to create an incentive for them to want to do it. And another event that we've held in the past is Move to Multifamily, which are weekend workshops where we literally teach investors how we do what we do on the active side. So that's a different part of my business, because today we're talking about capital raising. I'm kind of sharing with you guys behind the curtain. But for people that are active and passive investors, they just want to know how we do what we do. You teach them. You don't hold anything back. For those of you who are worried because you think you have something proprietary, relax. You're in real estate. We all understand the benefit of real estate. There's people in this room that have socks older than some of us, and they've seen all kinds of stuff in deals, okay? There is nothing new. There's nothing revolutionary. You're not creating artificial intelligence. Like, relax. It's real estate. So share the story, because they can find it anyway. And they might as well hear it from you. They might as well hear that you understand what it is. So share the story. By sharing it and educating from your perspective, you know what else you get to do? You get to show them what's wrong with other people's models without calling other people out. Because you can literally say, here's how we do it, and it's an improvement on the industry because here's typically how other people have done it. So literally you can call out your competitors, you can call out people without actually having to call them out and badmouth anybody. You do it from a place of service. We're actually teaching people how to look behind the curtain. Your interpretation of how a deal should be done right, if compelling, convincing, and correct, will become their interpretation of how to do deals. And then you become that thought leader. The second one, which is easier than live events, is live webinars. So we've done two types of live webinars. There's webinars that are called Evergreen, which is a webinar that you shoot once and you can use for years. So for example, the Invest in Multifamily, that's an Evergreen webinar. The Recession is at Your Doorstep, that is an event-driven webinar. In other words, in a year or 2 years, it won't be relevant, but it's relevant right now. So webinars are important. And if you think about it in the context of those two things, that will give you a lot of clarity. The next piece is Facebook groups. I can tell you right now, you got to think about how much time you have, how many resources you have, because some of this stuff starts to take a lot of time. I don't sit there and build our Facebook group. Barely know how to log into it, to be honest with you guys. But between the two groups, I think we have like 12,000 members, and it's a great place. And we don't sell anything in our Facebook groups. We just provide value. Second last one is online challenges. A lot of you have probably taken my 5-day capital challenge over the last couple of years. We've had over 10,000 people do this, and we spend very little money on ads. Because when we started this, we didn't know what ads were. So we had over 10,000 people add to our database just by teaching people how to put deals and capital together. From your perspective, you could maybe host an acquisition challenge, a land banking challenge. Now, you might think to yourself, counterintuitively, well, why the heck would I show people how I build buildings? But the reason why you want to demonstrate your expertise is because those passive investors will come on for 10, 20, 30 minutes of your 2-hour challenge and go, you know what? This guy really knows what he's talking about. I don't really want to do it, but we should probably talk about what I could do with my money. Psychologically, they think they want to do it. And then they see it and they're like, this is too much work. I just want to write a check. Well, they don't know they want to write a check because initially they think, well, I can just go on MLS and I just buy a piece of dirt. What do I need you for? Well, here's why. Here's our 5-step, 3-step, whatever process around development, STRs, land assembly, whatever it is that you do, multifamily, value add. You can literally have a challenge where you share a good portion of your secrets in the context of how you do what you do. And it's going to demonstrate to people that you're competent, that you have a clear way of doing business, and that they can work with you. How much can you teach in an hour or 2 hours anyway? You're not going to teach them everything you've learned over 20 years, but at least you can show them at a high level the systems or the milestones that you can demonstrate what it is. And you combine that with your story, and all of a sudden, not only do you have a fantastic live webinar or challenge, but you also have a lead magnet. You have something that you can use on autopilot. Like our list, we get between 50 and 80 new leads a day right now. Like my team shouldn't even be here. They need to be on the phone right now. Like but it's because we've now systemized so many things that even the live stream here, we have hundreds of people across North America just tuning in. These are all lead magnets, right? Like I'm sharing with you guys, like that's what it is. And the reason why people willingly get engaged is because they see value in what I teach, and I'll talk about branding and being consistent with what you teach. And that's what Amir's going to be doing, is that as long as what you're teaching is what you, in your heart of hearts, you're competent at, people will pay attention and you will skyrocket. It will happen. The most insincere thing you can do is, oh, it's really cool if I could teach. So I see people on the internet trying to copy me now, teaching how to raise capital. Okay, cool. Go do it. Have fun with it. You're not me. You don't have the track record I do. You don't have the expertise. You don't have the depth. So don't do that because it's cool and you want to jump on a trend, because people will see right through you. They'll see that you don't have the competence behind what you're teaching. And the problem with that is that you'll then lose that client. But if you're in your lane and you're teaching the game the way you know it, you will bring in that vacuum. That you'll fill that void. The next one I just mentioned is Evergreen Funnels. So this ebook, Evergreen Funnel, Unlimited Investor Leads, thousands of people have downloaded this thing. Why would somebody download an ebook called Unlimited Investor Leads? They're looking for leads for investors, I think, right? Well, what do we teach? We teach how to raise capital. This is a fantastic lead magnet for my business. How do you take what's in here and put it in a self-describing format? Doesn't have to be an ebook. Could be a webinar, could be a challenge, could be a lead, it could be any of these things. But how do you take what you have swirling around in your head that you can back up empirically with what you've done in your life elsewhere, framed in a way where people are like, I understand why I need this, and I understand why I should listen to him. And if you master that, it's going to take you a minute. It took me 2 years to figure this out. But once you master that, the results are self-evident. The next piece is other people's platforms. So other people's platforms are things like this, podcasts. So one of the biggest problems people have is when they get invited on podcasts, they're like, well, what do you want me to talk about? Well, what do you want to talk about? Well, what can you talk about? Well, the problem with that is that no one cares about your general opinion on anything. No one cares. Think about when you Google stuff. Do you Google Marston's general opinion on X or Mel's general opinion on Y? No, you don't even Google my name or Mel's name. You Google, I want to buy commercial plazas in London. I want to buy this. I want to do this. I want to learn how to raise capital. How do I X? How do I Y? Results based. So when you guys are packaging yourselves, and we're going to talk about this basically throughout the entire day, is how are you packaging yourself in the context of how you want to be seen? If I Google you and I see you selling houses, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just not going to understand how I can invest with you unless you also have another site or another brand that clearly tells me that you also do this. Or, hey, because I've been selling houses for the last 20 years, I actually have a huge list of sellers and buyers and everything else. And I have a huge opportunity to buy off-market leads, like off-market deals. Like, you got to bridge the gap for me. You got to help me understand. If you listen to any of the 80, 100 plus podcasts I've been on, I'm always talking about capital raising, deal structuring, team building. Those are the things I talk about. Even when the podcast host tries to pull me into something different, I always bring it back to what I want to talk about. That's what we're talking about, because that's my brand. That's who I am. Hey, what do you think about this? You know what's interesting? Here's actually how to talk to investors. I literally bring the conversation right back to what I want to talk about. I want to talk about what we want to talk about. Now, how do you set those expectations? Send a media kit. So when I got interviewed by Rod Cleef or on the Best Ever podcast or a lot of syndication show, all these major podcasts in the US, how much time do you think Rod Cleef is going to sit there and go, who is this Marston Droz fella I'm about to interview? You think he's going to sit there for 3 hours and Google me and watch videos and, learn about the easy system and all this other stuff? I mean, I'd like to think so, but probably not. So how do you make it easy for them? You send them a media kit. What does the media kit have? It has, first of all, how to properly say my name, because Droz, so it's phonetically spelled out, so it sounds right. So if any of you have names like my last name, do them a favor. Spell it out phonetically on the media kit. Like, such a simple hack. And then your topics. What are you actually going to talk about? What can you talk about? And the more compartmentalized your content is, the easier it is for them to ask you questions about it. Think about our content. We have the target system. I have the easy method. I have all kinds of different things that I haven't shared with you guys. And in the context of that, it's easy to understand how I can talk about any of those topics just ad hoc. If you're a developer, maybe you can have an acronym for development, the STEP system, STEP or whatever it is. And here's each step of the development process. Create an acronym for it. Like, it has to be easy for people you have to be able to pique curiosity and compartmentalize things in a way where, number one, you remember it. And number two, it makes sense in the context of what you do. Or if you don't want to have an acronym, my 5-step process, my 3-step process. Here's how I buy land. Here's how here's how we flip houses for profit. Here's how I do whatever it is. Those are important parts. Conferences. So how did I get to speak at the multifamily conference? You want to know how I got to speak there? I just called him. I literally called him like, hey man, you need any speakers? He goes, no, we're good. I'm like, no, you don't understand. We need to talk. And he just starts laughing. I told him, I said, here's what I do. 30 seconds, succinct, everything. Here's where it fits. Here's how it fits into the clients. Here's where they need it. Here's why they need it. And here's how I add value to your audience. It had nothing to do with me. He's like, okay, that makes sense. You guys understand? Like, this isn't all like fairy tale out, in the abyss stuff. Like, you guys can do this. You can do all of this. It's just a function of having that focused approach. And again, that media kit, that presentation, that packaging of yourself is going to be incredible. Now, this conference last year, the multifamily conference, what would it be worth to you to speak in front of 2,000 or 3,000 people and have the footage, the video, the content, be on stage with Cardone, all these other things, Kevin O'Leary the year before, Joe Fairless this year? How would that change your brand? It would move things drastically. I know it would. The next one is meetups and masterminds. So if you're sitting there and you're like, look, I don't want to speak in front of 2,000 people. Okay, speak in front of 5 people, 50 people. Meetups, masterminds. How do you get invited to speak at other people's masterminds? Well, you have something worth saying. How do you have something worth saying? You summarize it into your media kit. You have short blurbs of content that you can speak to. And then other people's social media. So rather than me posting me on other people's social media, what I've done is I've posted our members on my social media. So what we do is on a monthly basis, we interview our members, the ones that are having success, the ones that have great stories. At the end of the day, for me to share my members with my community, the 55,000+ people that are out there, it doesn't take away from what I'm doing. It actually adds to the entire experience. Like, anytime you guys think, well, why would somebody put me in front of their people? We're looking for the same thing. I'm telling you, if your people have that abundance mentality, you will naturally all move further together. So the question is, how do you package yourself? So for example, Tom and Kush, when they first joined our community, they raised $1.2 million, literally in 30 days. They cut their meetings in half. They had more time. They changed their approach and they had an immediate success. So what do? We package that story as a story and we share it with the community, how they did it, how they went through it, how that whole process worked for them. Like I said, over the years, we've developed all the templates and scripts that are necessary for me to tell my story. And literally that's what we did with our clients. And because of that, they were able to see the results that they had.